Get ready to be jolted out of the ordinary and into a world where conversations are charged with intensity and facts. The Lightning Strike Talk Radio with your host, Mohammed Faheem, broadcasting live from the heart of the city on Chicago's Progressive Talk Radio, WCPT 820 AM. Welcome to a radio show that charges through the airwaves with an electricity like no other. Here's your host, Mohammed Faheem.
Good morning, America. This is Mohammed Faheem with the Lightning Strike. Joining me today on the show are Ray Hanania, our guest host. Good morning, Ray.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
And we got Dr. Sheila White joining us. Good morning, Sheila.
Good morning, America.
And of course, Chris Hilbert is joining us from Texas. Good morning, Chris.
Thank you. Good morning.
Okay. Mike Patino is actually having fun in Hawaii, so he said he'll try to join. It's going to be very late over there, but he'll find a quiet spot and joining us if he could from Hawaii. Okay. We do have a guest coming in. Rachel Ventura would be joining us at 8:30 today. But what I want to talk about is our 250th anniversary. What exactly are we celebrating? This is the Lightning Strike. So this year marks America's 250th birthday, folks. A quarter of a millennium, right? 250 years of freedom, 250 years of opportunity, 250 years of promise. And that raises a simple question. What exactly are we celebrating? Because beneath the fireworks, the flags, the speeches, and the patriotic music that millions of Americans live every day, 40 million Americans depend on food assistance, folks. Millions remain uninsured or underinsured. Working families cannot afford homes in the communities where they work. Young people begin adult life buried under debt. Our infrastructure is crumbling. Life expectancy is falling behind other developed nations. Mental health crises are everywhere. Drug addiction has devastated entire communities. And despite all our wealth and our technology and all our power, too many Americans are one medical emergency, one missed paycheck, or one rent increase away from disaster. Think about that. The richest nation in human history, the most powerful military ever assembled, the greatest concentration of wealth ever created, and millions of citizens are struggling just to survive. Then came the celebration, okay? Not a national celebration, not a national campaign to build affordable housing, not a massive investment in schools, not a renewed effort to provide health care, not a plan to rebuild bridges, roads, water systems, and public transit. No. The image that captured the moment was a wrestling spectacle on the White House scheduled for today. Okay? Think of it. Lights, pyrotechnics, steel structures, a made for television production. And perhaps that image tells us more about America than we would like to admit. Because this isn't an accident, folks. This is the culmination of choices. Think about it. For decades now, we have rewarded spectacle over substance, entertainment over education, performance over policy, celebrity over competence. Just look at our president, okay? We have created a culture where people can name every professional athlete on a roster but cannot name their school board members. Where social media influencers command more attention than scientists. Where outrage generates more revenue than solutions. Where politics himself has become entertainment. And while we were watching the show, the fundamentals of the country were quietly deteriorating, right? We spent hundreds of billions on military hardware while veterans struggle to access care. We celebrate troops at halftime shows, but leave many of them fighting bureaucracies when they come home. We can project power around the world, but struggle to provide affordable housing at home. We can fund endless weapons systems, but somehow never have enough money for schools, health care, or mental health services. And every year we are told this is normal. It isn't normal. It is a choice, a political choice, an economic choice, a cultural choice, a national choice. The Romans had bread and circuses, right? Modern America has social media, cable news, endless entertainment, and a political system that increasingly resembles professional wrestling. Everyone is cutting promos, everyone is performing, everyone is selling outrage, and meanwhile, the problems remain. The rent still comes due, the hospital bill arrives, the student loan payment still needs to be made, the bridge still needs repairs, the water pipes still needs replacing, the children still need better schools. The families still need affordable homes. The work still needs to be done, folks. The question is not whether America is great. The question is whether America is willing to do the hard work required to become greater. Because patriotism is not measured by how loudly you cheer. It is measured by how honestly you confront your country's shortcomings. Real patriotism, folks, is demanding better. Real patriotism is solving problems. Real patriotism is making sure that the next generation of Americans inherits something stronger than what we were given. America at 250 stands at a crossroads. One path leads deeper into distraction. The other leads towards rebuilding, towards investing, towards educating, towards healing, towards governing, towards finally matching our enormous potential with meaningful results. 250 years later, that remains the challenge before us. The fireworks will fade, the speeches will end, the celebrations will pass, but the work remains. And until we choose work over spectacle, we will keep confusing noise for progress and performance for achievement. America is still capable of greatness. The question is whether we are ready to stop watching the show long enough to build it. I'm Mohammed Faheem. This is the Lightning Strike. If you want to join the conversation, the number to call in is 773-763-9278. Our segment is called What's on Your Mind? And it is sponsored by our good friend Ray Hanania. Good morning, Ray.
Hey, good morning, everybody.
So, 250 coming up, Ray, with what do we have? What are we showing for achievements?
What are we showing for? You mean the radio show? We're doing a
No,
lot.
I mean our country.
Oh, our country. Yeah, it's hard to focus on that when everybody's so angry and we don't know whether we're at war or not at war. When the White House and we really have kind of I have to, people aren't going to be happy, but he's kind of psychotic, our president. He says things and he jumps around like he has a severe case of ADHD, and he probably could use some medication to calm him down. Today's his 80th birthday, and he's celebrating with a UFC champion fight in front of the White House after he tore down part of the, I don't know, the
The
White
East Wing.
House. Yeah, and it just, I don't understand. And then to hear him talk about it like this is the greatest thing since the Eiffel Tower. He compared his UFC fight ring to the Eiffel Tower. He said, they kept the Eiffel Tower up after they had that fair. That was a World's Fair, I think, when they brought the Eiffel Tower, if I'm not mistaken. This UFC championship is about people that, and I guess this kind of plays to his core constituency. You kick the heck out of people, you punch, you kick, you brutalize people inside a cage. I don't know. It's not, I have a hard time following soccer, and we have the World Cup FIFA championship soccer competition going on, which is a big deal to a lot of people, especially in Latin America and in Europe. I have a hard time focusing on that. I love the Knicks and the Spurs last night. Their game, the Knicks won. I was rooting for the Spurs because I hate sports that's surround. I hate watching the New York games where they have all these celebrities in two rows along the court. It just seems like that privilege kind of always bothers me when you go to a Spurs game. You see that on TV, it's not that much. So I have a hard time wondering why am I want to watch the Ultimate Fighting Championship UFC in front of the White House? What justifies that? You know, he would have been smarter to bring the Knicks Spurs game to Washington,
Yep.
Yeah.
D.C. and have the competition there. I
Well,
would have
I'm
thought,
waiting.
okay, at least I
I'm
can
waiting,
understand
Ray.
that.
I'm waiting for him to put up a big golden toilet in front of the White House and take a public dump. That's
Yeah.
going
He's
to be
already
his.
done that.
Yeah. He's done that.
He's already done it. And you know that people say, "Oh, people say to me, you're being disrespectful in your column, Ray, because I punch him, and I hit him pretty hard in my column at courageousthought.com. But um, uh, his words, his rhetoric,
Mm,
calling a woman piggy,
Yep.
telling a woman to shut up, a journalist." Telling people on live TV, you're the worst journalist I've ever seen in my life. You're disgusting. And he goes on these rants and then using words like kick the crap out of and worse in interviews. He's not presenting the office of the presidency in the most professional manner, in my opinion.
No,
There's
he's
Well,
just
not.
a subtle way to deal with these issues, and he
mm,
lacks that. He has a whim of anger that
yeah.
really is disturbing.
we have been excusing that that behavior for years now, saying, "Oh,
Mhm.
it's just Donald Trump. He'll grow out of it. He's never going to grow out of it." Chris, I need your input on this.
No, excuse me. Allergies, Texas allergies. Yeah, I like what Ray had to say. You know, I've heard so many wonderful descriptions of Trump's tirades and his lack of civility, and I just wish some of those, especially the female reporters, to go, "No, I'm not a pig. You're the pig." I
Yeah.
mean, okay, so you're going to get fired. Well, have some freaking self-respect.
Mhm.
You know, he's a bully. Has
Yeah.
I don't know of any time in any history where being nice and constantly bowing down to a bully gets you anything. It just encourages them to continue to be a bully. Best way to stop a bully is like you're taught on the schoolyard. Hit
Right
him
back.
back, punch him back,
Okay.
retaliate.
Yep. Folks, again, for all our listeners in there, if you want to call in, Chris has got the number behind her head over there, 773-763-9278. It's not about constantly bashing Donald Trump, okay? That's not what we want to do on the show over here. But hey, someone has to, like Chris just said, stand up to the bully, okay?
Stand up to the bully.
And
Yeah.
and expose what is happening to our great country, folks.
Hmm.
Well,
We are,
there's a way to do it,
yep,
right?
it is not about making America great again. America was always great.
Hmm.
This guy literally took it down every single time he opened his mouth.
Yeah.
That is what we want your opinion on, okay? And joining us at 8:30 is going to be State Senator Rachel Ventura. We'll be talking to her about what's happening in Springfield and in her part of the world. Congresswoman Marie Newman is actually traveling. She's in Italy, so she will not be joining us this this Sunday. And Ray was kind enough to stand in for her again at very short notice. Ray, thank you so much
Of course.
for doing that. Ray, I want to talk about. We got a few minutes
Hmm.
about the fundraising dinner for the mayor of Orland Park. You want to talk a little bit to our listeners about it, what's happening, why we are doing it?
Yeah, I don't know if people really remember or know Orland Park. It's one of the biggest cities between
Typical.
Chicago and
That name is
Joliet.
always going to stick in my craw.
Is it? It's one of the biggest cities between Joliet and Chicago, and the mayor there ousted a mini-me Trump mayor who was in office for 8 years, 2 terms, but really 6 years of complete power, where he decimated the village. He eliminated the participation of the public. He created two committees that ran everything that he did. He voted himself. Everything was directed by him. And anybody who questioned him, he did the same thing that Trump does. He attacks you personally. And that, by the way, I just want to say that's the worst part about politics. I covered City Hall when Jane Byrne was the mayor. Jane
Mm.
Byrne would get mad at me all the time. She would attack my stories. She did get personal a few times. She called me scum one time when I wrote some column about exposing something she was doing. But for the most part, even politics back then was about the issue, not about the personality.
Yeah.
And the reason you bring in personality is because you can't argue the issue. And
Mm.
that's the lack of substance on Trump's part. He brings in the personality because he can't address the issue in a substantive way. So we had that in Orland Park. We ousted him in a huge vote, um, and we really kicked him out. We ended his rule of Orland Park, and we've opened it up. Orland Park is now a democracy. It's a much better place. People respect each other. Even some of his former allies on the board are nicer. So we have a fundraiser on Tuesday night that's being organized by Arab Americans. I think it's co-sponsored by the Lightning Strike, the American Arab Chamber of Commerce, and Hassan Nijam, as you know him, he's a good guy.
Hmm.
And it's going to be at 6 p.m. on June 16th, this Tuesday, at the Orland
Civic Center.
Civic Center, and
Yep.
it's going to be uh, food is going to be provided by El Bahar, which means the ocean in or the waterfront in Arabic. So El Bahar is this big Arab restaurant in Orland Park, and they got some great food over there. So it's going to be interesting. It's a fundraiser, and it's being driven by the Arab and Muslim community because we want to thank him for ousting Pikau, who, when Arab and Muslims went to a board meeting a couple years ago and said, "Hey, can we get a ceasefire for Gaza?" You didn't have to support a ceasefire. You could support a ceasefire, but when you start berating the people who brought up the resolution and telling them go to another country,
Mm.
these are the taxpayers in Orland Park who pay his salary, and that's what he said, to them. And what it did was it sparked anger and a revolution, a voter revolution. But the truth is, even if every Arab didn't vote, if every Arab and Muslim didn't vote in that election, Pikau would have lost because he lost by such a huge landslide. It showed that even the fundamental issues among the mainstream voters in Orland Park rejected, his leadership. I'm glad the Arab and Muslim community stood up and participated in that ouster.
Well, and Sheila, you do remember that we tried to get Pekau on the radio over here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We had multiple conversations with his staff,
Yep.
and he promised, and then he backed out. He chickened out. Backed out is not the right word. And here's the thing, folks. He had the residents, the citizens, escorted out of a public meeting
Mm.
This is a
when they wanted.
violation of the Open Meetings Act.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
a violation of the Open Meetings Act, and we spoke about that very strongly, Ray, in those days on the
Yeah.
radio.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, the citizens had the last laugh on this thing. Okay, so remember, folks, if you got things happening in your part of the world, talk to us. Let us know, and we
Yeah.
will, throw some lightning on these issues. That's what the show is all about. It's not about yeah, someone trying to tell us what to say and what not to say. That's where our District Watch segment has been started. We had Lynn LaPlante and our District Watch last Sunday. Chris, you want to give a little heads up on what the District Watch is all about for our listeners?
Sure. District Watch is a segment where we talk to former candidates, current candidates, wannabe candidates, to find out what's going on in their district. What are the people really caring about, and what are they doing to address those issues, to bring light to those issues, to help guide a solution for those issues. Kind of just a little open forum type thing, focusing on a variety of districts currently right now in Illinois, but hopefully, as the lightning strike expands its reach, we will include other states, and that's kind of where we'd like to go. Make this a true nationwide radio show for progressives and progressive values and ideals and ideas and solutions, not just complaining, but some actions that you can take.
Yeah.
And the again, the thought behind that, folks, is that if you have run for office, like Chris was saying, or plan to run for office, if you are a community activist, you know what is happening in your neck of the woods. We can't be everywhere, right? And
right.
come election time, these consultants sweep in from over some other cities and other states, and they come in and they put their finger in the air, do a couple of town halls and stuff, do their due diligence, like they come, like they say, and then the party leaders take it as gospel truth. The truth has to come from the grassroots folks, and that's what we're trying to do with the District Watch segment, is understand what are the issues and have it percolate up, instead of the party coming down from the top up and saying, this is what we want, these are the issues, and then they force a candidate on us. And what happens is Kamala Harris happens. We don't want that to happen, okay? And that is where we are going with the District Watch. If you are a community activist, if you love your community, if you love your country, you don't have to run for office, but please send an email to C Hilbert, Hilbert. That's Chris's email, chilbert@tlsradio.com. And Chris will respond back to you, or you could send it to our general email address, tls820am, tls820am at gmail.com. Coming up on 8:29, we are waiting for Rachel Ventura to join us. And as soon as she joins, we'll continue the conversation. But meanwhile, the floor is open for you folks. What do you think? Do you think, Ray, that there is going to be a ceasefire signing today, like our great president has been saying?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't trust anything the president says. It's all propaganda. It's all spin. I mean, this guy is he portrays himself as a master of spin. I mean, and in fairness, if there are Republicans out there or MAGA supporters, which would be the extreme right, that are angry with some of my words, I understand that. But I'm also very critical of the Democratic Party
Yeah.
nationally. They've
Yep.
done a poor job. Joe Biden was a nice guy, but I have some real questions about whether he was completely there and running the government properly. He set this up. Trump beat Hillary Clinton, and I always felt that Hillary Clinton's problem was she felt entitled. There was this entitlement that came across, because she was married to Bill Clinton. He had been the president for 2 terms. The one guy I liked was Barack Obama. But there were reasons why Trump is here, and it's not just because, he's good. It's because the Democrats were weak and they had poor leadership and they
Yeah.
did a bad job.
Yeah,
And
they have a tendency to side too often with Republicans and put profits over people.
yeah, they just
Yeah.
don't do the right things. It's I don't get it. For me, because I'm Middle Eastern, I'm looking at all the suffering in the Middle East, and yet we take all this money from these dark political action committees, these dark funds. They're running our elections, and
Yeah.
it's not even about being Israeli or Arab or Palestinian. It's about why do we let people in other countries influence our elections so much? And then, so there are all these factors that really make it a very confusing time and
Okay,
make it easy.
Rachel is entering the conversation, folks. So let's go ahead and
I'll
bring.
be nice to Democrats. Well, of course I am. I'm a
No,
Democrat.
here's the thing. Here's the thing, Ray. I am a Democrat, okay? I'm a
I
committed
am
person
too.
and everything. But
Yeah.
if the party leadership sucks, I'm going to call them out, okay?
Oh,
Yeah.
totally.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to. And
And
we have
on
to.
talking about calling people out here is Rachel. Good morning, Rachel. If you can please unmute and join us.
Good morning.
Good
Morning,
morning.
Senator.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining. So we were talking about holding the party accountable for their actions, Rachel, and it is not being unpatriotic to stand up for the common person. And if we had done that before, we would have not been in some of the messes that we are in. But folks, I want to introduce State Senator Rachel Ventura to you. Rachel, which district do you represent?
The 43rd here in Illinois.
The 43rd. So Rachel was born and raised in Joliet, folks. She has a BS in mathematics and from Benedictine University and an AS in biology from Tidewater Community College. Most people don't know about that. So before politics, she worked as an actuary, naturalist, pet nurse, substitute teacher, business director, and she served on the Will County Board. And I think, Rachel, you assumed your Senate seat in January 2023, if I'm correct, right?
That's correct.
And District 43 covers portions of Bolingbrook, Joliet, Lockport, Romeoville, and other surrounding communities. And Rachel currently is serving on the Human Rights Committee. She serves as Vice Chair of Public Health and sits on the local government, child welfare, financial institutions, and appropriations committees. And she won her re-election decisively in November 2024. Good morning, Rachel.
Good morning. And
So,
to your comment on your part about holding the party accountable,
mhm.
yes, we have not done enough of that, but also not enough candidates have run to hold our elected officials accountable. If there is no competition, then there is no accountability.
Yeah,
Well
and
said.
just so you know, Senator, when you came on, we were talking about national politics being terrible. So, and then you came on. I don't want you to think that we're kind of hammering you or the
Oh, no,
state
not at all.
party. I'm very critical of the state overall in terms of where we rank with other states, but in terms of what you're doing in the Senate, I admire a lot of the stuff you're doing and you're open, and the fact that you'll even come on a radio show and answer questions. Not a lot of elected officials will do that anymore. You know, they take advantage of the fact that the media is kind of evaporating. You know, we don't have the same media that we had 20, 30 years ago. So it's really important that elected officials like you and others come on shows like this and talk and not be afraid to take on the critical issues and the controversial issues. So thank you.
Yeah, well, you're welcome. And some of my goals in the Senate or, being elected is to have faith in our government again, that we can trust the people who represent our government represent our interests. And that has not happened enough in my lifetime. And so I am trying to lead by example. So I hope this will encourage more elected officials to be honest and open and come on radio shows like this and get out there and represent their people.
And if a reporter asks you a question you don't like, you don't call them piggy, right? Or you don't
That's right. I have a
you
lot
don't
of
call me that dirty Arab or whatever, right?
No, I
Okay.
have a lot
Okay,
of
good.
respect for our press because we
Yeah.
don't have democracy without a free press. And so,
Right.
if anything, we need to be putting more resources into our press, especially our local presses like newspapers at home who are reporting on the everyday issues that impact people's lives day and day. So, yeah, I really respect what you guys do.
Yeah. And we don't have to agree either. We can have a good, healthy debate. Actually educates the public more when we don't agree and we get into issues but we do it in a respectful way. I was looking over a list of all the many things that you've been doing. I mean, I know
Yeah.
many senators in the Illinois State Senate, and you're really active, and there you have a lot of bills. I have a couple questions that I wanted to ask you, if you don't mind, if I can get into them. First, talking about your district, it's interesting. Mohammed pointed out to me that this is like a warehouse dense congressional district where you balance these industrial businesses against the people that live there. How do you balance the interests of the two? Because sometimes they're not they're in conflict sometimes. How does it work?
Yeah, so I think, first of all, I have the largest inland port in my district. 4% of GDP in our country goes through my district. About 63% of every product shipped in the United States goes through my district. So it is really the hub and heart of America, especially as we move more into logistics. But that comes with a whole lot of problems, right? Everything from air pollution, truck traffic, other environmental pollutants, and then low wages, right? None of these warehouses are unionized, and that creates a problem for wages. And we have like 99 temp agencies that exploit wages, overtime. There's no benefits, et cetera. So our state has tried to address this in a number of different ways, but we need to do more. So basically, I don't see it as a conflict here. What I see it as is exploitation is happening in my district, and we need to fight against it. Now, I'm sure the Amazons of the world would have a different viewpoint, that they feel that they're, moving products and helping people. But the reality is, when their CEO and their owners are billionaires, and my workers here make $18 an hour, but it costs $26 an hour to live in my district, it's a real problem. And so, in the past, I have kind of gone head to head with our unions who build these warehouses. And for them, it is good paying jobs, right? When they're building anything they're building, they're getting paid more than a living wage, a fair wage. And that's what we want. We want those type of jobs. However, my argument is they need to be helping us unionize these places, bringing in the wages so that it's not just building it, but also once you're operating it, what does that look like? There has been some movement there, especially when it comes to like forklift operators. But by and large, most of these jobs are low wages. And now with AI taking off, a lot of these jobs will probably be replaced with robots and other AI infrastructure. And so, that's a problem. But more than that, most of the people who work in these warehouses don't live in my district. One, they can't afford to live in my district. But two, they're being shipped in from Chicago or Indiana or other places where, people are desperate to get a job, so they'll take this job. To me, that is not a sustainable economy. It's not a good Main Street, and it's not a good Wall Street. Short term, maybe for Wall Street, it's great. But long term, when you destroy your working base, and Amazon routinely goes through workers, and that's one reason they're pushing the AI and robot direction, is because they are quickly running out of people who are willing to work these jobs. And so long term, it's not sustainable for them either.
So Rachel,
go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry, you referred to the workers in the district not being able to afford to live in the district. I know that you have the House Bill 2783, which would establish a graduated annual fee on institutional investors. I'm thinking of how Zillow came in at one time and swooped in, bought a lot of houses, pumped up the prices, and then were unable to find people to work. So could you talk a little bit about the HB 2783 that you're presenting?
Yeah, so this is the Restock the Block Act, and it's really meant to stop private equity from purchasing our existing single-family homes. So from 2020 to 2024, the largest percentage of homes that were available were bought up by private equity. Those are homes that are never going to go back into the marketplace for people to buy. Additionally, then they ran up rents or sometimes demolished units, which put us further behind in the housing crisis, or they had things like bed and breakfasts. And so for them, it was an investment in making more money. But for people living here, it became a reality of not having enough places to live, rents skyrocketing, and people being displaced out of their homes. That's a problem. So my bill is meant to encourage, if private equity wants to build and purchase new homes to kind of help us ease the housing crisis, then they can do that without any penalty. But if they're going to continue to buy up homes, for every 10 homes that they buy up, they'd have to pay 10% fee, and it maxes out at 50%. And that fee would go into a fund that was meant for rental assistance, mortgage assistance, first-time home buyers, and building public housing. So again, if they want to keep investing in homes, that's fine, but they have to be a part of the solution. They can't just be the problem. And right now, they are a big problem in America.
What are they doing with these homes when they buy them up? I mean, they're investing in them, but are they shutting them down? Are people still living in them? Are they taking control of the rent then, or mortgages? What are they doing with them?
Yeah, so there's a plethora of that, but most of it is they are renting them out because they're out-of-state investors, and they don't always use a property management company. Some of them become slumlords, right? They're not fixing up the locations. It's hard for people to get a hold of their landlords or to know who to complain to. And so then if they do complain, sometimes they increase the rents, right, to discourage that type of behavior, right? And so we've seen in Joliet, we have a company called ProTown, which sold their company to a private equity firm, and they own a large percentage of Joliet homes. But there's others all throughout our state, as well as the United States, that own large number of homes. And so the variety, most of it is being used to rent out. Like I said, some of them are Airbnbs, or some of them end up being demolished and better units. And we see that more in Chicago, where they might take out an entire apartment complex or a row of single homes and then rebuild with less units, but maybe more high-end housing. And so ultimately what they are doing is they're increasing the rent. And what's happening is it's not like people then just stop renting. More likely then they start renting out a room or having a bigger family move in there. So then causes overcrowding in our neighborhoods as well. So it's just not a sustainable practice. And our local elected officials could also do more to downplay that type of aspects in their city through zoning and other rules, but they choose not to.
So, Rachel, who are supporting your bill and who are opposing it, and for what reasons?
Yeah, so we have a number of housing advocates supporting our bill, like the Housing Action Illinois, as well as Housing for Disabled. The people who are opposing it, of course, are private equity firms, and surprisingly, the Realtor Association. And this to me is really shocking, and I've tried to have very common sense conversations with them, because when private equity purchases these homes, it takes it out of the market, which means they're not selling those homes, which means realtors don't have the opportunity to sell those homes. But yet the realtors have connected themselves to private equity and to landlords specifically, and they advocate for them more so than what I feel when it comes to actual realtors, and that's a problem.
So, folks, our guest today is State Senator Rachel Ventura, and Rachel, do you have more time to spend with us today? Marie is actually in Italy, so we have some time in the second hour also. Do you have some time to stay with us? Because there's so many things that we need answers for.
Yeah.
Of course.
Okay, awesome. Ray, you wanted to say something. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about I know you're the chairman of the Human Rights Committee, which is pretty interesting to me because you've been in the Senate now about 4 years. So you have some establishment, and I think you're there for another 2 years, correct?
That's correct.
And you'll be running. Does the Human Rights Committee actually, and again, there's so many different levels of this, does the Human Rights Committee actually really address human rights? Do you feel that it's doing a good enough job to address human rights? Because I get a sense sometimes that some people, and they're not critical of you or the committee, but there are people here that feel that their human rights are not addressed. How do you address a topic that with such breadth and keep everybody happy and catch all the problems that exist that have to do with human rights with so many ethnic and religious people in our state and region?
Yeah, before I answer that question, I will answer that question. I want to share with you that I think the universe has a funny joke for me. When I was on the Will County Board, I chaired public health, which they thought was kind of a throwaway committee at the time. Not a lot happens. It's very routine. And then COVID hit. So I chaired COVID. I chaired public health through COVID. So then I come to the Senate and I chair human rights, which also, not to say as a throwaway, but not
Right.
as many things happen in the Human Rights Committee as, let's say, local government.
Right.
And then Trump gets reelected and starts doing what he's doing to our committees, our communities. So I think that the universe is testing my ability to chair some of these committees. So yes, I do think that the Human Rights Committee has been more active now than it has in the past, but not necessarily running bills through the committee. I think it's more on the back end. Our Human Rights Commission has done a lot of the heavy lifting. So I really owe a lot of credit to them. I think as AI is taking off, our committee is becoming more and more important. And so let me touch on that a little bit. When Trump came to started attacking our state, I should say, it was at war with Chicago, those are his words, and sent ICE into our communities, it became really problematic. Our state does not have the ability to stop the federal government. And so what can we do to help people? We obviously have things like the Trust Act, and a few other safe areas in our state that we've allowed, some reprieve there, but ultimately the state can't trump the federal government. And so we have tried to create a process where people can document everything that's happening. We've had several public hearings where we've collected this information. We've recently put out a report. I'm happy to send that to you, talking about all of the things that have happened, where the federal government, specifically ICE agents, have violated people's human rights and civic rights. What happens next with that information? We have provided policy recommendations both to the federal government, to state and local government. Some of those bills we're going to be working on here in the state, but obviously we need our Congress to wake up and listen to this report. More than that, last year when we passed the SALT Act, it allowed people to sue the federal government if their human rights had been violated. And so people can now use our law and go to court for it. And if the individuals, ICE agents, were wearing bandanas or other face protectives, they can get double the payment based on that law. So we want to make sure that people's rights are being protected. Sometimes, though, that doesn't happen in deterring the violations. It happens after the fact. And of course, that's heartbreaking. We can try to lead by example, but we can't force the hand of the federal government. So that's one aspect of it. I want to talk about AI a little bit. So what we're seeing from a housing and financial right, as well as employment, is that AI is quickly displacing people in all of those areas, and it's very biased. Because it uses data from the past, it may skew data. And so looking, if you're filing your job application and you're a person of color, it may automatically, kick you out based on your name or where you live, thinking you're not qualified for that job. And so that's also a violation of, it's discrimination first and foremost. But when it comes to housing, it's a violation of your right to have a home. And so these are areas that we're starting to see more legislation go through the Human Rights Committee, and also through other committees. AI has touched a lot of areas, and so we've heard a lot of it in the Executive Committee as well. But the Human Rights Committee and Commission is the one that is really taking up this mantle of writing the rules so that we can have notification to individuals, and then ultimately some type of persecution if your rights have been violated.
Yeah, and that's interesting on AI because, AI relies on what's out there. And there are a lot of communities, minority communities especially, don't have a lot out there. There's not a lot of journalism. Communities don't have these small publications. They tend to kind of, AI reaches into these banks of news stories from, for example, like the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. But they don't get like the local news stories. So this AI is focused on, it plays into a system that's really kind of, in my opinion, unbalanced. For example, there are no Arab newspapers in Illinois that AI can even access to get any information about the Arab or Muslim community. They just don't exist at the same level. How do you, and I'm not trying to make this about Middle East politics, but how do you balance, how do you get AI to be fair with information to represent the real fairness of what is out there rather than the dominant information that's out there.
Yeah, I mean, on the notification side, that's why it's so important that people know that AI is being utilized, so they can at least have an idea that's happening.
Right.
So, like, we don't even know all of the areas that AI is being utilized right now in our lives, and so
Right.
that's why the Human Rights Committee taking that view of like notification being so important. On the second side of that, though, one of the bills that I filed this last year was a liability bill for AI that basically said that if it harms you or it knowingly harms you, and could have taken precautions, that you could then sue. This bill has not moved yet. We moved kind of sections of it. I moved a portion of the customer service chatbot with liability, and then Senator Ellman moved the companion chatbot with liability. But overall, we have not actually run a liability bill, and that's the thing that's needed, right? When people say, "Well, we'll slow down innovation," it's not going to slow or stop innovation. It's going to make innovation more responsible. If they have to be held liable for harms that they know will hurt people, they will take a lot more precautions in building out their technology to make sure that it's avoiding that. And that's what we really need, is for them to be responsible partners in this development.
And one other big area that I think that you really got to, I'm hoping you're considering in this AI bill. I used to go on social media, and I know that it's a place where people get angry, but I knew there were human beings that were getting angry. Now I'm seeing social media inundated with things that I'm not really sure, are they real, or has social media created an instance where someone was beaten up, or maybe they weren't really beaten up? Did they take incidents from the past, incorporate them and mesh them together and say, oh, look what happened yesterday? Maybe it didn't happen yesterday. There's a real credibility issue now with some of these reports. Does the bill address that? The fact that AI needs to be identified so people can say, "Oh, that's AI. Okay, I don't want to watch it."
Yeah, so my bill doesn't, but Mary Edley Allen, Senator Mary Edley Allen's bill, she has one called the Providence Bill, and that's exactly what it does. When it comes to like videos and images, it would have a little like pixel or metadata on the back end that would identify that it was AI or AI generated or AI manipulated. And I think that's really important, right? We're living in this kind of weird, surreal time frame where you don't know what's real and what's not real. And so I think we will get there. It will take some time, though. That bill didn't move because some of the technology to identify the metadata and the pixels that are needed don't exist yet. So now there's this demand on the market to bring forth, cameras that have that, or readers that have it, so they can identify who's using AI and who's not. So we are working on the legislation, but I think this is an area where we need the market and the legislation to move together.
Ray, I'm so glad you brought up that aspect, Ray, because I have these videos just jumping up and say breaking news. They don't have a date on it.
Right.
They have no reflection on what is happening. Breaking news happening today. Yeah, give me the freaking date on that, folks. But Dr. White has been patiently listening to you. She is a constituent. She lives in Joliet.
Yes. Welcome to the Lightning Strike, Senator. The City of Champions, you're representing well. My question is going back to the warehousing boom, actually, about those types of jobs. We know Romeoville and Bolingbrook and Joliet specifically, all these residents are just trying to exist. I'll say it in that way. How can they just continue with the low wage market? And they need jobs. People are coming in from other areas to take on these jobs, and it's not enough to sustain just your household. What can we do about that? What's your answer to this warehousing boom, I'll say, that's going on? People are attracted to these areas because of that. So what are your answers to that?
Yeah, I really feel that if the warehouses were unionized, those wages would be better, and that would change the exploitation that's happening in the region. And so we continue to look at different ways to do that. We have tried to limit some of the abuses when it comes to lack of benefits, number of days. If they have if they have someone hired for 90 days, they need to offer benefits. They can't then fire them and have another temp agency hire them, for another 90 days. So we're trying to crack down on some of those aspects. But I think long term, it's better jobs, right? I mean, whether that's manufacturing, we have an exciting news this week that Hyundai will be coming to one of our it was where Lion Electric was at, and they plan to bring in a lot of jobs. So better paying jobs are always the answer. Obviously, things like having functional healthcare and universities and local schools also provide those day-to-day jobs where people usually live in their community and work in their community. And so we want to continue to foster direct pipeline from our schools directly into those jobs. And I think our area has done a great job. As you know, JJC, Joliet Junior College, the first junior college in America, does a great job of trying to get people directly placed, especially when it comes to manufacturing and other trade type organizations, to try to get people into those jobs directly from our local schools.
Yeah, and another question I have for you is, being a woman of color, can we really make a difference with this administration? What's going on with this administration? There's so much happening, and there are a lot of people that are just working class people that want a chance, immigrants coming here. In your view, is there going to be a difference? Can we make a difference in our communities, in our world, in America? We're coming up to the 250th anniversary, as Muhammad was saying in his rant. But there's a lot of discouragement out there that people can just come to America and be able to just make a living and have that dream again. Do you think it's lost? Because even if Trump is gone, there's so much damage that has been done to America and the view of America from outside. Can we get back to what it was before this Trump era, I'll say?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to unpack there. So the first thing I would say is that, well, as much as I hate Trump being in office and the hate that he has brought, it has brought transparency. And we cannot unpack that hatred and have a better living until we knew it existed. If it happens in the shadows, then it's hard for us to do anything about it. So that's the one thing, like it being exposed allows us to face it. And I think it has encouraged more people to come out and speak out against this hate and say, look, we're people too. We're people of all diversity. Yeah. And that is what America is about, right? Blending us together, this melting pot. And so I do think that we will survive Trump, absolutely. And I think that there's a lot of encouragement. It's really hard when you're zoomed in to the everyday, right? I mean, the guy who cuts me off on the freeway and I'm like, why is there so much hate in the world? Or the person who, cuts in front of me in line at the grocery store or something. Like, you want to be angry and see that the worst of the worst, right? But when you zoom out and see the changes that have happened, it is encouraging. So when I first got into office, women were not the majority of anything. When I was on county board, we were half of we were a split board. Now we're a growing majority in the Senate. The diversity that's there, everything from my friend, Representative Nabila Saeed in the House, who's running for the Senate, or my friend Sabah Heather, who's now running for the House, Senator Guzman, Senator Villa, Ron Villavam, Robert Peters, LG Sims. I mean, I could go on, the diversity that we have in the Senate and in the House here in Illinois. That's very encouraging. That could not have happened 20 years ago. And so, while we still don't have a female speaker or a female Senate president, that day is coming. Well, we still don't have a president of the United States as a woman. I think that day is coming. So I guess what I'm saying is there's so much diversity happening. There's a ton of diversity that happens in my office. We bring interns in on a rolling basis throughout the year. And I'm very impressed and encouraged by the youth who are coming through my door.
Yeah. I have another question for you, Senator. Do you believe that the Democratic caucus in Springfield has the political actuality to fight what's going on with all the problems that we're having? Or are we just managing a decline in our billions of backlog?
I want to jump in here real quick. It's 9 o'clock. The station will be taking a break for the top of the news, our news from NBC. But we are live on Facebook also, so we can continue the conversation. And we'll come back on to the air on WCPT in about 3 to 5 minutes, folks. We've got our guest today, State Senator Rachel Ventura, and I'm glad we're having this time, Rachel. We have so many questions that we can't just have them answered in a 15-minute segment, right? So let's go back to Dr. White's question. What is your answer?
Well, I just want to know, do you believe that the Democratic caucus in Springfield has the political ability to deal with these fiscal problems? Are we just managing the decline, or can we help with this backlog, $4.5 billion backlog? What are we doing and what's going on?
Yeah, so just to clarify, we have paid our back bills. What we haven't paid is our pension obligations, as well as our funding for education could be much better. Of course, if we invested more money from the state side, that could lower property taxes. But there has to be, I think, a trigger to make that happen, because when we passed the EDF, the evidence-based funding, a goal of that was to have property tax relief. But what we've seen is the school boards have taken both the state dollars and increased property dollars. So, and that's partly because our schools were underfunded for a long time. But I think we're getting to that point where we need to have a mechanism that solves that. But to your question about, is the Democratic Party moving the needle? And I would say not enough. This is an area where I fought this year like hell with some of my colleagues. We fought so hard to tax the rich because we were losing money from the federal government from some of the Trump tax cuts. And we wanted to reverse those Trump tax cuts for the rich by taxing the rich, bringing it back to our states. And we were able to do that, very mildly in order to get a flat budget. So I thought if it takes us this much just to not cut services, right, to have a flat budget, how are we ever going to shrink the wealth gap? And so I think this is an area where more so in the Senate, we are seeing progress, right? There is acknowledgement that we had the largest wealth gap we've had even since the Gilded Age. And we need to do something about that, right? Now that Elon Musk is the first trillionaire, multiple more millionaires, we also saw the increase in inflation decimate people's increases in wages. And so you have the super, super rich and you have people who are not making it. In fact, we're falling behind more and more. And so there's been a lot of acknowledgement in the Senate about that. And I think more and more bills you're seeing are trying to shrink that wealth gap. But it does feel like we're up against a huge wave, tidal wave. And so this last year, we created the Affordability and Tax Justice Coalition between the House and the Senate, moderates and progressives, people who want to really look at tax reform and how do we make it more fair of a system. So this is really encouraging. I think we have a lot more work to do in the House to educate some of our House members and get them on board with what we're trying to do. And then we're going to have to take a hard look at property taxes, and our flat income tax is a real problem in the state. We are the 8th most regressive tax. And it's one thing when we put the flat tax in and people had very similar salaries and there weren't so many corporate loopholes, but now it's just really a very unfair system where the middle class is primarily paying a huge portion of their income in taxes and the rich is paying almost nothing. And so we need to fix that. That has to happen with a constitutional amendment. And so we will want the support of the House and Senate, and then of course voters to vote for it this time and trust that we really are trying to fix the system. I think there's this overall this view that we can't trust government, and maybe we can't trust Illinois government.
Okay.
But the truth is, we have to fix that. We have to get on a more fair.
Well, we are back live on WCPT. So, folks, if you have any questions, any concerns that you would like to ask our State Senator Rachel Ventura, please feel free to call in or text us 773-763-9278. This is the Lightning Strike. We come every Sunday morning from 8 to 10 on WCPT, our nation's largest progressive talk radio station. So a lot of people are listening to us, and we do post these videos and our audio on our YouTube channel. So just go to YouTube and search for @Lightning Strike, and you will find us, and also on our Facebook channel, which is @TLS Radio. YouTube is also @TLS Radio, sorry, not Lightning Strike. Okay. And you can find the audio on SoundCloud and also on our Apple podcasts and a lot of other places. Here's the thing that I wanted to folks to understand again, folks. This is our country. The elected representatives work for us, and not for the PACs and APAC and UNPAC or whatever these other PACs are. And we've got a right to ask them to perform for us. And I'm so glad that Senator Ventura has been so kind enough to come in and answer all these questions. Rachel, I wanted to talk about, switch a little bit and talk about the CURE Act, the Senate Bill 3695 that you have sponsored. What is the CURE Act? Can you explain that to our listeners?
Yeah, the CURE Act would legalize psilocybin in a setting, like a healing center type setting, not unlike some of the ketamine clinics that we have, but it would have a type of therapy, assisted therapy with it. So you would go in for a prep session. For those who don't know what psilocybin is, it's magic mushrooms. There's been a lot of evidence. They got the FDA breakthrough therapy that it creates neuroplasticity in the brain. And so what it basically does is kind of cleans the slate of your brain so it can make more neural pathways and fix things like trauma, PTSD, things that we've not been able to really impact until we've started using some of these medicines. And so what it would do is it would allow for our state to have these healing centers for individuals to go into a healing center, have a prep session. If they are a good candidate for the medicine, then they would have a treatment there and then have integration sessions, 3 integration sessions, either there or with their therapist following it. 2 other states have this. They did not do it through legislation. They did it through a ballot referendum, and that's Oregon and Colorado. No states have passed this legislatively yet. A few have tried, California and Arizona. They both passed their House and Senate and was vetoed by their governor. And we're having some of those same problems here. And what's interesting is it's a bipartisan effort. So this last year, we passed a task force from the Senate to the House, and it had Republicans and Democrats on it. I've worked with Senator Craig Wilcox, who's a Republican and a veteran, on this legislation. And it's shocking to us that no governor wants to sign this. And so we've come up to some headwinds as well in our state with our governor and our Department of Financial Regulation on getting this bill across the finish line. But we're going to keep working at it because the people who need this really need this. Individuals who have been resistant to other treatment and other medications, especially those with PTSD or complex PTSD, this could mean the difference between them living or not. Veteran suicide is up to 44 a day. And we're seeing more first responders and police who have, seen trauma in our communities be impacted by this. And so to have a solution right at our fingertips and not be able to utilize it, it's really heartbreaking. The war on drugs really did a number on every drug, whether it was justified or not. And we've seen what the opioid epidemic has done, and that has been a drug that's been prescribed to our communities. It's time to allow some of these ancient medicines, remedies that have been out there to help people.
So I think the first step that you have taken is the setup of the advisory board, right? So at least that is a foundation that you are laying for further work on this. And thank you for taking up these things, Rachel. It's let me ask you one more thing from a procedural point of view. I want to switch again gears a little bit. When the Senate or the House are considering bills, how does the public get their input into the bills?
So there's a number of ways, but sometimes people don't know bills are being filed. So the best way is through stakeholder groups, right? If you belong to an advocacy group that is following along a bill, they're probably giving you the most play-by-play information. So for example, we had the Power Act this year, which would regulate data centers. That was being moved by the Illinois Environmental Council, and they sent out information about lobby day, about contacting your senator and House members. and really did a lot of advocacy push. So that's one example. Obviously, the unions, lobby for different bills. And so if you're a union member, you might get information that way. So if you're just a normal person, you're like, I don't know what my senator is running. First, I would encourage you to follow them on social media. Many of us have newsletters, so you can get that information, because the newspapers don't always report on it. We'll send out press releases, and of the 40 bills that I filed, maybe I got 5 press releases picked up. So the best way to get that information is to get it directly. And we do engage with our constituent base. And so if you send me emails, we respond to them. We look at them. If you want a meeting with me, you can meet with me. So I think the other way to do it is just to follow along on ilga.gov. That is our state site. All bills are filed there. So regardless of whether the press is picking it up or not, you can go to ilga.gov, find your member of the Senate or the House, and you can click on the bills. If you click on primary sponsor, it'll show you all the bills that they are the direct sponsor of, and then you can get some updated information. If the bill is moving through the House or the Senate, if it's going into committee, it's on a subject hearing, all of that will be listed. And if a bill is being heard in a committee or on the floor, then you can file a witness slip for or against that bill.
Okay, what is a witness slip? I mean, that is something that most people are unaware of. And how much of an impact do those witness slips actually have on the legislation?
So there's 2 schools of thoughts. The first is the witness slip is for people who want to testify in the Senate or the House. And that is generally how they are used. And when that happens, they have a huge weight. The other school of thought is it's like a popularity contest. If I get 1,000 people to sign against this slip, then it will indicate to the individuals that they don't want this. Yes and no. I feel like sometimes that's where people say, okay, well, what are the groups that are, really working against this versus are there a bunch of individuals? And, I don't know if that's a good way to look at it or not, but I'm just being honest. That's how lawmakers look at it. So, for example, in my bill, if 1,000 people from my private equity Restock the Block Act, if 1,000 people said, we want this, but then the realtors are the only people who filed against it, lawmakers are more likely to listen to the realtors' opposition and have a one-on-one meeting with them to figure out why they should not vote for this bill, as opposed to seeing that 1,000 people who want this bill to pass. Partly because they're not going to take 1,000 meetings, right? So they're going to pick a couple of these stakeholders and learn what the opposition is. And sometimes it's not even by choice, right? I'll be walking through the Capitol and a lobbyist will stop me and say, hey, we want you to vote no on this bill. We want you to vote yes on this bill. Individuals don't have that same opportunity. And I would argue that this is the part of our broken system, is that individuals don't feel represented, because the truth is a lot of times they're not represented by these groups. The rich and powerful are always represented by these groups, but it's really hard for the Jane Smith out there to have somebody who's advocating for them in the Capitol.
Well, you come in as a breath of fresh air to explain these things to us. Folks, again, this is Senator Rachel Ventura, who is talking with us on the Lightning Strike today. Rachel, I know that you have championed criminal justice reform, right, and restorative justice measures, especially for young offenders. I had a long discussion a couple of times with some of the judicial candidates that are running as to what their judicial philosophy is, especially for young offenders who are in their teens and 20s, and our system is putting them in prison and jail for 40 years, 30 years. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, because by the time they come out, their support system is already gone, right? And they're going to go right back into committing crimes. So from what gets criminalized to how people are treated while incarcerated, I know that you have introduced legislation to talk about these things. Can you expand a little bit upon on that?
Yeah, so last year we passed the Child First Task Force, and that's getting on the way now. And then this year we expanded the restorative justice opportunities for youth, juveniles who go through our court cases. Now courts can also create restorative justice programs, not just state's attorneys, and they have to consider restorative justice in their sentencing. And so why are we doing this? So Child First looks at the child first, essentially, and then the crime second. What does that mean? It means that we recognize that a child is a subject of their environment. And so if they didn't have the resources, if they didn't have the parenting, the schooling, then they're going to make choices based on what was provided to them. And when we have disinvested in our communities and in our family, we've taken some of those opportunities, those positive opportunities away, and basically streamlined individuals to make some maybe not so great choices. And more times than not, those choices are made out of survival or mental health. And we have a way to reverse those things, but we have to first stop the disinvestment. We have to make sure that individuals know the choices they have, especially when it comes to our youth, in providing a more positive pathway. If all you see is a negative pathway, then more likely you will go down that pathway. So we have to provide different opportunities. A lot of the practices that we've seen in our justice system are rooted in racism, and we need to undo that. We have to intentionally undo that. And so when someone enters the legal system, especially as a youth, we want to provide new pathways for them. We want to provide resources for them. So that means that we have to not just look at the child, but look at the environment that the child is coming from and what needs to happen there. It may mean things like caseworkers for the parents, right? Education for the child, or other opportunities, like maybe they want to be a basketball player. Do they have a basketball hoop in their yard to practice? Do they have opportunities? Maybe they want to become an engineer, right? Do they have access to that? And so sometimes children don't know what they want to do because they haven't been exposed to anything either. So by allowing their courts to utilize community-based organizations and restorative practices, it provides an opportunity for that individual to make better choices. But it also provides something for the victim. So with the restorative practices, they volunteer to be a part of that system. And so the victim gets to be a part of that accountability. They get to see first and foremost that this is a child who has wronged them. And it takes away that kind of larger than life boogeyman type view that somebody's attacked me or stole from me or harmed me. And then that person, you never see them again. You don't see them in the justice system. You don't know what happens with the court case. You don't even know sometimes if they have been punished or not. And so then that becomes this like fear that ends up in the victim. And so, but if that victim gets to be a part of this and sits kind of in a conference with a judge, with, the parents of this child and the child, and comes up with the judge and trained professionals on what type of accountability would be best and what type of healing is needed for the victim. Then in the end, everyone gets to see a path forward. And it also sends a message that when we make mistakes, there's a way to get back on track and right the wrongs. But the system we have today, which is rooted 100% in punishment and punishment only, there's no getting back on track. It's punishment for the rest of your life. You won't get housing. You won't get good employment. That's a problem, because then if you mess up, there's no coming back from that. And that's not a society that is healthy for anyone. We want to make sure that people feel encouraged to make the best choices. But if they don't, have a way to come back to making good choices. And that's what this legislation is about.
And let's also not forget the cost to the taxpayers, folks. It costs like over $50,000 per individual per year to keep someone locked up in jail and prison. And that is something that could be much better used to bring them and rehab them back into society. People come up and say, oh, no, this is a bad seed. It's never going to make any difference. Oh, he's this and he's that, or she's that. Let's give them a chance, especially the youngsters, okay, the juveniles who are committing crimes, because like Rachel was saying, it is a product of the environment, not just the individual. Rachel, thank you so much. I mean, this has been so educational for us. And Chris has been quietly sitting over there. And Chris joins us from Euless, Texas every Sunday. Chris, you got any questions for Senator Ventura?
Just kind of an overall thing. I was just wondering if your constituents, because of all that has happened under Trump the last 2 years and the effect of his tariffs and other economic weirdness that he has inflicted on the country, has there been more of an awareness in your constituents of the huge financial discrepancy between the 1% and the workers, and are they becoming more aware? Are they talking to you more? Are they getting more involved in helping their community and helping you get changes made to help them?
Oh gosh, I wish I could say yes. I feel like the 20% that loves Trump will love Trump no matter what. I mean, Trump just got done saying that he loves inflation. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to be surprised if I'm going to hear from the right wing side that inflation is somehow is good, and I get gaslit about how great inflation is, how it means the economy is growing. I mean, this is the blind following that he has, and I'm not sure what it's going to take until that person is personally injured in a way that maybe is like you can't come back from. Maybe then they will wake up. But I will say the independents, and maybe even some of our moderate Republicans, they look at what's happened and said this is not good. And I do think there's more information that's getting out there about when Republicans have been in control, what has happened to our economy versus Democrats. Now, sometimes people don't want to hear the facts, right? And that's okay.
Right.
And I know Democrats who don't want to hear the facts about corruption, right? So like it's very easy for people to turn off what they don't want to hear. But I do think that more than ever, we are hurting as a country. Our middle class has pretty well been decimated. We have the haves and the have-nots, and this just isn't sustainable. And so I do think we have to get money out of politics, which I filed a bill here in the state, like other states have, to try to overturn Citizens United by removing the corporate powers. Other states are trying to do this, but Congress could do this right now.
Yeah.
That would be helpful, as well as making sure that we have good paying jobs and that we're taxing the rich. The best way to get rid of price gouging and other aspects like that, corporate loopholes and whatnot, is to tax the rich. There's no reason we should have billionaires and trillionaires. I mean, it's one thing if you make a product and it's taken off. It's another thing when you've exploited resources and people and finances and manipulated Wall Street or the gambling websites now. I mean, there's so much out there that's hurting people that we could do a lot better, but you're going to have to get people elected who believe in these things. And, the Trump followers aside, I still think that we have the majority of Americans who want to see a better America, and they're ready for that. And God, I hope they prove me right come November.
Yes.
That would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Folks, you are tuned in to the Lightning Strike. We come every Sunday morning, and we come in at 8 o'clock on WCPT. You can listen to us live on the station and worldwide on the WCPT website. And we have got Valerie joining us. I think she is probably Dr. White's guest coming in. We do have Maria Muzaffar who will be joining us at 9:30 to break the echo chamber and what's happening in our country. Feel free again to participate in our discussions. And by the way, Rachel, if you are available on July 29th, we are doing our first fundraising dinner for the Lightning Strike in Bolingbrook. I'll share more information with you on that. Again, we are trying to keep the show ad free so that our sponsors or corporate overlords don't come us and tell us you can talk about this and you can't talk about that. If you do that, we're going to pull our funding. So that's where we are trying to go with at least getting some of our listeners to come and support the show also. And Ray, you are saying something, so let me go back to you.
No, I was just going to thank the senator, and maybe the only point I wanted to leave her with, and from my standpoint, I've covered politics 50 years, from Chicago City Hall for 20 years and to suburban politics. You got to eliminate and ban dark money PACs, and you got to severely limit special interests and super PACs in terms of what they can do, because until they're kind of brought down, the average person really has no say. And those witness slips are, I realize you count them up and you can hear that there's so many people out there in favor of something, but when the corporate powers and PACs are behind it, it's money talks, and it's hard to help the people that are struggling when they don't have as much money as they need and they can't even contribute to the debate. So, but thank you for joining us today. It was a great
Yes.
pleasure to meet you and talk to you.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. And I'll just leave it with this. If your listeners have not contacted their House members or their Senate members on any bill, please do so. Get to know them. And if you have contacted them and you don't like the way they vote or don't like the way that they respond, run for office, because that's
Right.
how we hold them accountable. And so I hope that everyone here listening will participate in their democracy fully.
Okay.
And it's been a pleasure being on. Thank you so much.
Or come and talk about it. Come and talk about it on the radio, Rachel. So this is why we wanted to do the show, is to hold our elected representatives accountable for their actions. Okay, because at the end of the day, you work for the people, right?
That's right.
But Murray was saying, Congressman Murray Newman was saying in a couple of shows back that 83% or so, or 89% of our elected representatives in Congress are answerable only to their sponsors, okay, not to the people. She said the PACs and the people. What was the word that she used? That these people basically are sold out to other interests than to their own constituents' interests. And I hope it is not that bad at the state level, but we are going to continue to talk about responsibility.
Yeah, well, I'm only one of 3 senators who don't take corporate PACs in Illinois. So we have a
Good
long
for
way to
you.
go. We got 59 senators and only 3 of us don't take corporate dollars. So we need to grow that. But hey, last year or 2 years ago, it was only 2 of us. So we're going to keep at it, and hopefully we'll get there.
Well, I hope Nabila gets into the Senate also.
Right.
She's been doing a bang-up job in the House so far. And folks, keep in tune, keep listening. Listen, this is our country, okay? We've got to take it back. We cannot come back and complain when our voter turnout is between 15 to 20%. Please come out and vote. Not just register to vote, come out and vote. And if somebody are not voting, talk to them. Have them listen to the lightning strike on Sunday mornings to get educated on what moves our country. With that, Rachel, again, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure, and I want to bring in Maria Muzaffar back into the conversation. Maria, good morning. If you can unmute and join the conversation.
Yes, good morning. No, I can't reaffirm more what the senator is saying. The reality is that even the witness slips coming in, and I understand that it is kind of a heartbreak to see tons of witness slips in and then the vote go the other way, or the discussion or the vote get tabled. But it really wakes up the constituency, just even that process. And the witness slips in itself turn into one-on-one conversations. And I think that's very, very critical. We've seen this multiple times. So many of the legislation that I worked on, witness slips served as an education piece, right? But then it also re-energized a group of people that were able to make connections and actually use not only their voice, but their money as well. And I don't mean corporate PACs, but their personal donations, and really understand how the two interplay. And unfortunately, some people respond, some elected officials only respond to the donors. But once you have both of those going as a partnership, you really do have a slam dunk for getting your voice heard.
So, Maria, again, I want our listeners to understand what a witness slip is and how easy it is to submit it. You don't have to mail anything in. You don't have to fill out a long form. Can you please talk about what a witness slip is and how easy it is, or where to, how do you submit a witness slip?
Yeah. So it's really a form that you can fill in online, and you can go to the Illinois General Assembly website, and you can look up the bill that you're actually interested or heard about. Let's say you heard about something today and you know the bill number. You go and you put that bill number in. You'll get a full summary of what the bill is. You'll see where it is on the procedural posture, which means, is it in committee? Is it about to get voted out? Or is it going to hearing? So when it goes to hearing, it basically is going to be discussed with these committee members once it's assigned to committee, and questions will be asked. And the most important thing is not only just a substantive part of the bill and what it does, but how many people are supportive and how many people are against. And there's a link to that bill that basically asks anybody who's interested to fill in the information and say proponent or opponent, right? And then that gets recorded. And so you can actually go on the website and see who is in support of the bill and who is against. And that's very, very helpful. I have been in multiple hearings for the same bill, and I would come back and I would say, remember, last time we had 300 witness slips, this time we have 500 witness slips. We need to keep this moving. People are very, very, very strongly supportive of it, and it would get caught up in budget or something else. But then eventually every bill that we worked on did get passed, and the witness slips were a huge part of it because it was not a question that there was support. And I would say this is that media plays a big part in recognizing the power of the witness slips. So in the witness slips, only the committee members are hearing it. But once you let the media know 500 people signed this and the committee is still not moving it, or is our proponent, sorry, and still the committee is not moving it or calling it, that's a media story, right?
Yeah,
That's a media story.
There's a misconception out there sometimes that a lot of the public doesn't understand that a witness slip doesn't mean that you have to drive down to Springfield and testify as a witness. Yeah. So a lot of people won't fill those out, but you're absolutely right. This is Ray Hanania, Maria. The witness slip is so important in terms of you want to show support, fill out a witness slip for something that you support or oppose. And it does have an impact. And as a reporter, I know that when I see that, or as a columnist, when I see that, it does have an impact in terms of, wow, look how many people have expressed an opinion one way or the other. So it does have an impact.
Yeah,
but the public doesn't realize that they don't have to go there.
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying that too, because people don't realize one story feeds the other story, and then that's how it kind of becomes an issue that people cannot ignore. And I think also it is a muscle. What we were speaking about earlier is that it's a muscle that we have to flex, because we watch these headlines and you really feel like, where do I start? Where do I make a dent here? The witness slip is the first flexing of that muscle. It's easy. It's low stakes. Just say yes or no. And then you watch it and you're like, wow, I need to be engaged. What you do realize, even though that there's corporate money involved, what you do realize is elected officials, it's an impact when they see a name. They see a phone call with the same name following that. And then they see a name on their agenda that someone's stopping by. All three are important. And if you can be that person at all three levels, or even at that one level, and you do it again and again, it's very, very helpful. One thing that we spoke about last time, Mohammed, if you remember, is that all of these community centers and these town halls where elected officials come and talk to you, and you always have that one person who has like a bunch of things that they printed out in a folder, and they come up and they bring up the same issue again and again. I can promise you, when you're rolling your eyes about, here we go again, this person going after this issue, that the elected official in that district knows that person really well, and they're making sure and they're hoping that everybody else just rolls their eyes and doesn't hang out with them. But these people are the ones that need your support. Stop by and listen to them. Ask them what they're about and what their facts are, and then it'll snowball. But really, witness slips are the first low stakes flexing your muscle, and then pretty much you'll be benching. You'll be benching a good amount.
Okay. So, folks, that's legislative attorney Maria Muzaffar, who joins us every Sunday at 9:30. Her segment is Breaking the Echo Chamber. So, Maria, what is the echo chamber that you want to break today? Because I spoke about our 250th anniversary celebrations coming up, and our juvenile in the White House trying to have a UFC fight on the White House lawns while the country is going to hell in a handbasket. What do you have on your mind, Maria?
Well, I want to break the echo chamber on the impact of our policies and our rhetoric globally and how we're all connected. And I want to just point an arrow there, because I think a lot of people may not be watching the international headlines. But if you have seen what is happening in Belfast, I don't know if any of you have seen on the show here what's happening in Belfast. But in Belfast, there are individuals going through the streets and looking for migrants and kicking their doors open and burning their houses. And there are kids fleeing in Belfast, where immigrant communities live, and piling up in police cars to protect themselves. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because the response in Belfast all occurred because there was a knife attack by a man who was Sudanese. Okay, there's a knife attack of an individual who was Irish, and it was a Sudanese man. And so the response and the attack of these individuals that are very pro British groups that are seen as far right have taken it into their hands to scare migrants and blame a collective community for the actions of one person. When in fact, earlier there was an incident where there was a Caucasian person that attacked, but there was no uproar for that. The reason why I say that is because there's an analogy of the political rhetoric that is exactly the same as the one in the US. And this is why I always come back to the impact of the US globally. The political rhetoric on immigrants, on diverse communities that we use here in the US bleeds over to Europe. And then it gets translated into immigration policies, but not just immigration policies that you have to see, 2, 3, 4 weeks, 5 months down the road of how they're going to be implemented. It actually creates outrage to the point where people's lives are impacted in such a dangerous way that people are scared. So people, and what really, I was talking to a colleague yesterday, that what we're seeing in Belfast is exactly what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It is literally knocking down doors and wanting to burn businesses and homes down and scare people. And so we cannot lose the impact of the global microphone that the United States has, and that what is mimicked around the world really has an impact of how we conduct ourselves here and the language that we allow our elected officials to use. And I bring it back to the town hall that we held 2 weeks ago, the Nationwide Religious Liberties Town Hall, which was attended by, national leaders that were policy experts on religious liberties. And what they said was this: the political rhetoric impacts their families, their children, their businesses, their communities, and this was across the board: Sikh, Hindu, Jewish, Muslim, and even Catholic, which people don't realize. And so the political rhetoric against communities, if it's given the microphone here, it will bleed into all different countries. And it's our responsibility to take the mic and go in the other direction. And one thing that, Ray, I want to kind of give you a heads up on this because you're a columnist and you're paying attention to the witness slips. But one thing that is a major policy initiative that faith communities are looking into is addressing political rhetoric of elected officials. If you insult faith communities or communities of color that incite violence and encourage violence, you should be held accountable.
Right.
Because, this immunity of elected officials should not include hate speech that results in violence. And This is what we saw in San Diego. Right. And this is with the mosque shooting. This is what we saw with Wadale Fayumi. People were very quick to say quick things to get campaign points about different communities. This is what we saw with Randy Fine and the Sharia hearings that were completely fictitious. These things have real lives at stake that are harmed. And we've already seen a security guard fall in San Diego. We're seeing the danger of it in Belfast. We saw it with Wadale Fayumi. When will it be where the citizens and the constituents of the country say, you know what, just because you're running for office does not give you immunity to say incorrect, fiery things that are charged, that are political rhetoric against communities that are made up with real good, hardworking people that have to worry about their lives, because who's listening to your rhetoric starts to get galvanized because they're not economically doing well because of your economic policies. They don't have opportunities. So the fastest way to do this is to hate somebody and harm them. So that's the echo chamber I want to break, and I'll end this, and I'll repeat this again because I repeated it last time, but it's very, very important, is that the kids that were scared in San Diego to go from their kindergarten class to safety at the San Diego Islamic Center, their lives have become just as tragic for receiving this message of not belonging as the 17-year-old who actually took a gun and shot that security guard who was protecting the children. Both of them are examples of a powerless narrative that has been charged with hate for political points and actually attacks and takes real lives. And we just cannot take our eye off the target and create a norm that is acceptable, that saves families and children from harm in this way.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you very much. And that was so critical, folks. And it all comes back to, again, electing the right people.
Yes.
And once they are elected, holding them accountable. I mean, I hate this that somebody has been in Congress for like 8 terms. Why?
Wow.
Okay, you come, do your civic duty, go back and do your farming. That is how the system was supposed to be set up in the beginning. And these people are making a career out of it. And then you have the hangers on, and then you have the donors and the PACs and all of that. The entire system needs a reboot, folks.
Yes.
And it all starts with us over here, you and me. It is not somebody going to come in from outer space. Our president is always trying to throw a distraction our way. It's going to be the aliens. We're going to be releasing some information about the aliens. Yeah, release the Epstein files first, please.
Yes.
Okay. Let us make sure that we hold our elected representatives accountable, folks. I cannot overemphasize that. Maria Muzaffar joined us today for her segment on Breaking the Echo Chamber. Maria, again, as usual, thank you so much for talking about these things. Ray, thank you for stepping in as our guest host for today. And we got Dr. Sheila White has got 2 of our guests patiently waiting in the green room, like we say. Sheila, you want to introduce your guest to us?
Yes. I just want to welcome to the global platform of the Lightning Strike, Miss Valerie Westmoreland. And you know what? We need to have a smell-o-vision, as I said on today, because she is the proprietor of Everything Delicious Catering. And man, oh man, if she was with us in our studio, Mohammed, we'd have something good for breakfast on today.
But I want to stop you right there, Sheila. I want to stop you right there, okay? We have our fundraising dinner set up on the 29th of July in Bolingbrook. Valerie, you want to come in and let us share some of your delicacies over there, see what you're all about?
Absolutely.
Putting you on the spot, girl. Putting you on the
Anytime.
spot over there. Okay.
Yes, anytime. I would welcome the opportunity to provide you guys with a scrumptious meal. So
Oh,
definitely send me
that is
those
so sweet
details
of you.
and I will make it happen.
That is so sweet of you. Chris is actually flying in from Dallas to join us at the fundraising dinner. So,
Yes.
okay, we do have our catering is being sponsored, and Ray and is taking care of that with Hassan, and they are setting up some things. But we'd love to have you join us also. And we're expecting about 250 people in the Bolingbrook Civic Center.
Okay.
And
Yes.
thank you again to Mayor Mary Basta for helping us out with setting up this venue for us. Sheila, go ahead, and I want you to take this information to Valerie, and we'll put her up on the flyer also that we're sending out.
That's good. That's really good. This was a business that was opened in Romeoville, Illinois, and it's a beautiful location. The mayor was there, a lot of city officials are there at this grand opening. Tell us a little bit about how it felt to be in this beautiful establishment in Romeoville that opened up. Tell us about the grand opening, first of all, that happened.
So I want to thank Mayor Nowak for having me. When I tell you they showed up and showed out for Everything Delicious Cafe, they did not spare any expense when they rolled out the red carpet for me. So I'm just internally grateful for them for that. And that happened on May the 4th, which was the ribbon cutting ceremony. And all my friends and family came out in support, along with a lot of village officials and the fire department, the the police department, everybody, because this cafe was it was a long time coming, and
Yes.
for it to finally come to fruition, everybody wanted to see that in plain view. So that was the grand opening, and we had a lot of delicious offerings that day that we were allowing the people to sample, like my delicious gumbo, which will probably be a special this week. So just a heads up to those who's been asking me, when are you going to have that gumbo again? So just a heads up, that might be a special this week. So definitely follow me on Instagram, or go to my Facebook page and see what we have running this week for specials.
Yep. So,
Now,
folks,
is that
we have this. Sheila, just want to jump in
Sure.
again. I'm so excited to, because the smell vision thing. But we have this segment, folks, every week, where we call it our Person of the Week segment. And Dr. Sheila White, she produces the segment and introduces the guests and invites all of them. If you want to be a guest on the show, this is recognizing people who have done good in the community and who are giving back. So it's not all about politics on the show. Okay, I just want to let the listeners know it's not about bashing Trump all the time, or
Yeah.
just talking about politics. It is also about recognizing good people. And
That's
we have
right.
someone on an iPhone. I don't know who they are. They are not on video, so I don't know if the person on the iPhone, if they can introduce themselves. Are they part of your trip, your team, Valerie?
They could be just some of my dedicated followers. Yeah, because
Okay. Okay.
yes,
So
yes, yes. So I'm not really sure, but they can definitely say hi if you came on to support me. I appreciate that so much.
yeah, you want to say something, person on the iPhone, before I cut you off? Okay, they're not responding, so I'm just
Okay.
going
Yeah,
to
that's sure.
go ahead and take them off the feed over here. Go ahead, Dr. White,
Yeah,
please
yeah.
continue.
I just wanted to ask you, Valerie, how do you handle dietary restrictions? Because the food is everything is delicious, Mohammed. That's when you can walk into a restaurant or to a cafe and everything on the menu is delicious. That's breathtaking. But how do you handle dietary restrictions? Because people have issues like Scott roll tissues when they come in to eat. So how do you handle that?
Dr. White, that is so true. So at Everything Delicious Cafe, we specialize in preparing your food to order. So when you come in and you place an order, we ask you, are there any dietary restrictions that we should be aware of, so that people in the back will know, well, I'm gluten free. So we do have gluten free options, bread options and things like that. So if you let us know upon placing your order, and then we make sure that we can accommodate your request. So that's not a problem at Everything Delicious Cafe, Miss White.
Hey, Valerie, jumping in again, okay?
Yes.
We need halal food in these areas. I live in Plainfield, okay? And there are
Okay.
not too many halal restaurants in Plainfield. So you want to really increase your clientele, add a halal option.
Halal options. All right.
Yep.
I surely will definitely take
If
that
you
into
need
consideration.
help
Absolutely.
deciding what it could be, talk to me. I can help you out. And also, if you want to attract Indian, Pakistani, Middle Eastern people over here, hot sauce.
Oh, hot sauce. Well, Muhammad, I make an amazing, and I'm gonna have to drop some off to you. I make an amazing salsa that
Okay.
will definitely knock your socks off. So I'm gonna have to personally make that for you and drop it off at the station
Okay.
so you can try it.
So I'm
And
just giving
when
you
I
some.
tell you,
I'm
you
just
will
sharing
love
some
it.
ideas about increasing your business for you. Okay, hot
Yes.
sauce, halal food, and I think you will have. I mean, you don't have to have everything halal. Just a couple of things, options. Sheila, I'm having
Yeah.
fun. So
You
please
know,
excuse me.
that's what this show's all about, the lightning strike.
Absolutely.
We have a good time on this show on the
Okay.
lightning strike. Like he said, it's not always about politics. But one of the customers came in and they were a vegetarian, Muhammad, and we looked at the menu.
Yep.
They said there's nothing offered today. They customized something specifically for that customer, and the customer's mouth was just watering. They're like, "This is the best I've ever tasted in my entire life." They ordered one for breakfast, one for lunch, and one for dinner of that item, and also their desserts. They had a delicious cakes and oh my goodness, you want to talk about some of the delicious desserts they have. So we definitely want to have an offering, some type of offering, Ray, at the fundraiser that's coming up, whatever's missing or whatever's not there.
Absolutely. Like I say, I can definitely donate some, like you said, delicious desserts or some of that amazing salsa just for Muhammad so he can try on the meal that he's having that day. I know that you guys and your guests would love everything delicious. So
and where exactly
get that information over to Sheila so so she can get it over to me, and I would definitely make sure that there's some offering on the table.
Well, Ray is emceeing the fundraising dinner, so Ray, make sure that you recognize Valerie, please, when we do
Oh,
this.
absolutely. Nice
If
thing
she
about being
brings
the
in.
MC is I get to eat while everybody's talking.
Absolutely. And like I say, and we don't have to wait to the fundraiser dinner. I can prepare something and have it delivered to the station.
No, please.
I can definitely have it delivered to the station so you guys can enjoy a delicious lunch on
I was telling Mohammed we need to do like a food thing with all the different variety of food. We should sponsor something to bring all
do
the
a
food
show
out
on
there.
just the food. Yeah,
It would be neat.
that would be great.
Maybe we could do a physical event and just highlight the different cuisines of the world.
Yes.
That would be awesome.
An amazing idea. Count me in.
Okay. No,
Where are you located, Valerie?
new.
I want to make sure we know where you're located at in Romeoville.
Okay,
We're
we're located at 349 South Weber Road inside the Ovation Center. So definitely come out if you are in the area. Stop by, say hi, come get one of those decadent desserts that Dr. White was talking about, or that avocado toast. The avocado toast is one of the most popular items in there, and the feedback that I get is that it's a party in your mouth. So
There was a restaurant a long time back, Valerie, that had an eggplant toast. That was one of the most delicious things that I've ever had, and I can't find it locally anymore.
Really? Okay. So I'm gonna have to create that for you, Muhammad, and I'm gonna name it after Muhammad.
All right.
No, just say the lightning strike.
Muhammad.
This is the lightning strike toast, okay?
Yes, I love that. The lightning strike toast. I love that. You know what, Muhammad? When you stop by and visit, you're gonna see that on the menu.
Oh boy, thank you so much. But that is the fun side of life, folks.
Yes.
Let's not be too serious about life. I know that we got some. I don't want to use the I word on air, but you know who I mean when I say Trump and who he is. And locally also, we got some people who are not that great for our country. But hey, then we got people like Valerie, okay?
Yeah.
Make America great again. Yeah, make the suburbs great again with good food.
Exactly. It's nothing like some good comfort food. And if you guys ever in the area in Romeoville, stop by Everything Delicious Cafe. Like I said, we're located 349 South Weber Road in Romeoville, located inside the Ovation Center, right next to the Five Below. You can't miss it. Stop in. We have some delicious handcrafted lemonades that truly will have you coming back. And we have the best coffee that's in the world. I'm saying it, in the world. We have the best coffee in the world. So come by, say hi, come for the drink, stay for the food.
We got Shayna Haynes joining us in the waiting room. Is it one of your acolytes, Valerie?
Yes, Shayna is actually my daughter.
Okay, Shayna. Good morning. Welcome to the Lightning Strike.
And then she's talking about the lemonade. It's the best I've ever tasted in my life. Her lemonade is custom made. I don't even know where she grows her lemons from, where she gets his lemons from. But Muhammad, it is so delicious. We'll have to have
you want some fresh mint from my farm? Just let me know.
I surely do.
I can bring
I
you a bunch
endure.
of mint.
Yes, I surely do. Yes, I'm going to
Okay.
take you up on that offer, Muhammad.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, folks, we got about 6 minutes to finish off the show today. And we started off by talking about what the heck is happening in our country. What are we celebrating 250 years? Okay, our infrastructure is crumbling, our people are hurting, and we are spending billions of dollars on a foreign war that we don't need to be in the rest of the world. And we have this military industrial complex constantly eating away at our
Yeah.
civil rights over here in this country. It's not just about politics, folks. It's about our life. And that is
Yeah.
what we like to discuss here on the Lightning Strike. State Senator Rachel Ventura was our guest today for a long time, and she has really opened up about what makes her tick and what we need to do in order, again, to take our country back. And one of the things that I really want to emphasize on, Valerie, sorry for jumping into your segment over here, but I like to kind of wrap up what we've been discussing in 2 hours every Sunday. Okay. Uh, it is the importance, folks, of understanding our rights. When I say our rights, they come with responsibilities. If you don't come out and vote and elect the right candidates, if you are passionate about something like Rachel was saying, run for office. These people who are supposed to represent us don't come in from another planet. They are not aliens. Our president wants us to believe that, yeah, he's going to be releasing files on aliens so that we can get another distraction from the Epstein files. But you and I, if you have the passion, please run for office. Don't let these party cliques decide who is going to represent you, and they come in and they bring in somebody and says, okay, this is our candidate. Challenge them. That is the only way that we can progress in this country, folks, by challenging the establishment. Don't take things for granted. Ray, I want to give you a couple of minutes to have your final thoughts, and then we can get a minute from Chris and Dr. White, and we'll finish off on Valerie. Shayna is so shy; she does not want to let us hear our voice. Go ahead, Ray, please.
Well, I'm just real quick. I'm just writing about the lack of compassion that we have in our society, that we get angry or too much. Social media is like a combat zone rather than an information zone. So I'm kind of writing on, it was really kind of surprising to see the anger in the roads in the storm that we just went through. People giving people the fingers, nobody's patient. There were so many accidents all over, people trying to rush through intersections. There's this attitude of, hey, treat other people nice, pause, let people pull in front of you. Give people an opportunity to get through. You don't have to spin around in the wrong lane to get in front of everybody because you're impatient. So that anger is something that I think is coming out of our politics, and it's spreading through our society. So I'm going to be addressing that too. So
Well, thank you, Ray. And I do give out seminars on cross-cultural communication, and one of the things that I want to let people know that you said about people giving the fingers. Do you know that in the Iranian culture, giving somebody the thumbs up is equal to giving them the middle finger? Did you know that?
Really? No, I didn't know that.
Yep.
Wow.
So that's why our negotiations are failing, because
That's why Trump thinks he has a deal, because the Iranians are giving him the thumbs up.
Okay.
Yeah, look, we got a deal.
Because the Jared
17 times.
Kushner, who's not an elected official, who's not appointed, who's
Right.
and Vance, and they go and they sit across the table from the Iranians, and they're saying, "Yeah, we're giving you the thumbs up," and they're like,
Funny.
"Okay." Sheila, a couple of words from you. We got 2 minutes to finish up the show.
Listen, like Valerie said, come for the drinks, stay for the food. Literally, it is a party in your mouth. If you've ever experienced something that everything is delicious, you have to come out to this restaurant in Romeoville. Muhammad, I'm telling you, it is just, it's scrumptious. This is what will make America great. Having people like Valerie and having good food, good people. Oh my gosh, I'm excited about it. So thank you
Okay.
again, Valerie.
Chris, you got 30 seconds before we finish off the show.
Well, this has been a lively and fun show. I've enjoyed every minute of it, and I loved listening to Rachel, and I love listening to Valerie
Yeah.
talk about her food. And I wish I was closer so I could come right away. And I'm looking forward to seeing everybody in July.
We
Yeah.
got Tracy also joining us, and it's like 30 seconds to finish up the show, folks. So if you have joined us recently, please forgive me. Do go back to our website, tlsradio.com. We are updating the website to include the information about the fundraising dinner. So it may not be up right now, but do go back to our YouTube channel, which is at TLS Radio, our Facebook. We'll be posting these videos and audio over there also. So you can go back and listen to us. And on that note, it's 10 o'clock. Thank you so much for listening in. Sheila, send me Valerie's number. I've got an idea that I want to bounce off of you. That'll get you more business.
It's going to be detrimental to your health because it's so good. You're going to not want to stop eating.
Thank you guys
Okay,
for
folks, thank you
calling
for
me. I really
listening.
appreciate it.
Over and out. We'll be back again next Sunday with our person of the week and
Yes.
also our segment on the District Watch, which is going to be Chris, who's going to be our guest.
Let me check real quick.
Morgan.
It is
Morgan
going to
Coghill,
be
who ran for office in the
Mr.
10th.
Morgan Coghill, yes.
Yep, in the 10th Illinois District will be our guest, holding us accountable again for what's happening in the 10th District. Thank you so much for listening. Over and out. We'll be back again next week, same place, same time. This is Mohammed Faheem, your host and producer for the Lightning Strike, signing off. Thank you.
Hi, Tracy and Shanna.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.